This is very, very important information for your future if you want to save money on paying taxes. A lot of people don't understand the difference between an EA and a CPA. How would you explain the difference?
An EA is specialized in the technical aspect of things, especially when it comes to a filing, when it comes to a miscellaneous or extraordinary thing. But a CPA will prepare your financials, take your numbers, prepare the return, and get you a balance due.
What I've realized is the most successful and busy people in the world are the best at communicating. What is the future for your guys' business? Where do you go from today to the future?
I think the future relies on communication, and so the systems that you have in place for that to not only continue to bring people on, but sustain the clients that you have at a high level. I never thought I'd go back into entrepreneurship when I was 16, 17. My cousin, shout out to Yasiel, who played for the LA Dodgers. I was starting that company with him and
Wait, what did you just say? What's up, you guys? Welcome to another episode of Successful DNA. Here with us, I have my friends Escalade Mendez and Edgar Iniestra. Welcome to the pod.
Awesome, Elliott. Thank you for having us.
And first of all, happy birthday, Mr. Mendez. 28 tomorrow?
Yes, the big 2-8.
Nice. Escalade's birthday, so we'll wish it today. It's February 5th as we record. This episode will come out in 4 or 5 weeks, so it'll be after his birthday. So happy birthday. From the pod. So let's start with this. You guys have the mantra, not your average accountants, okay? So I agree with you. There are a bunch of average accountants out there that I don't like. We work with daily with our clients. So let's get your opinion. Either one who wants to start first, we can get both if you have different opinions. First of all, what is an average accountant? And then why are you guys not average?
My definition of an average accountant would be an accountant that you work with for your business or your personally. This is somebody who's going to play just prep your tax return, see you once a year, maybe not even talk to you during the year, and just get you in and out. Mm-hmm. You know, that's something that we typically see a lot. And also an average accountant will be somebody that you can get a hold of a lot. A lot of people that come to us, a lot of the new clients that we have coming in, that's their biggest complaint. I can't get a hold of my guy. And so that I would define that as being the average accountant. And so what makes us not average is that we're relationship based. We like to meet our client, talk to our client, hang out with our client, and build a relationship out of it. And then that helps us better understand their business, their goals, their aspirations, and it helps us better understand their finances and see if there's anything that we can do, and just further understand their tax implications. And so, as I said, we're relationship based, and so you will catch me quite often playing golf with clients, and it's something that I appreciate a lot. I feel that I make really good friendships and relationships out on a golf course with a client. And it's something that I've even been to birthday parties, New Year's parties, vacations with clients, and so forth. And so I would say that that's what makes us not average, the level of attention that we bring to our clients, and how detailed we are, and how we're always reachable. And we're not just building a business relationship, we're building a friendship and a long-term relationship.
The way I like to put it is the CPAs of the world, the accountants of the world are more or less just like order takers. You come in, here's your return, but they're not trying to solve problems for you. They're not asking questions. They're not digging into your pain to figure out what problems do you have, which obviously we'll dig into what you guys do. Escalade, would you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think kind of adding to what you were saying, so Edgar went to school and studied accounting. I went to school and studied finance. And so the joke my professor always made was that the accountants build financial statements, and us in the finance world, we interpret those statements and make forecasts. And so switching from finance to accounting, kind of to what you were saying, was one of the biggest things that we talk about is that we play offense, year-round offense for our clients. What can we do? If you hire your kids, what does that happen? What happens with that? If you're going to implement some aggressive strategies, how does that impact and move the needle? And so I think the biggest thing is just an average accountant is someone. Well, the average accountant is 55 years old, so they're a lot older than us. They're hard to reach. Communication is really tough, and they've got really outdated and old systems in place. So they're typically boggled, and they can't take on any more clients. They can't really even onboard one. I actually had a call yesterday with a prospective company that's going to bring 30 companies to us, which is huge. And they've been with that company for years. A bigger company bought them out. They had a representative who's there. They lost touch, and now they can't get a hold. And they have 30 sitting companies with this big firm at scale. And so I think we bring a personal touch to the table.
Yeah.
Really good personal touch that people love and appreciate.
You know, I like your explanation of that. Playing offense, not just playing defense. I'm excited to nerd out eventually in the podcast on the, you know, unique tax perspectives and tax code. I think what people, you know, listeners probably don't have any interest in tax code, but I think everybody should. I think, you know, when you play offense, the reason you have to play offense is because there's, and correct me if I'm wrong, 70,000. I mean, the last time I saw 70,000 plus lines in the tax code.
Yes.
You know, so it's getting probably closer to 80,000 lines at this point. And so you need a group like you guys that is going to play offense, because it's all about interpretation of the tax code. You know, tax code doesn't say, the IRS doesn't like say, do this to save money from paying taxes, right? It's the interpretation of the tax code. Now, some of it is do this, do that. But so we'll dive into a little bit of that, and listeners, trying to hang on. This is very, very important information for your future if you want to save money on paying taxes. But as always, I want to back up a little bit, talk about your origins, you know, where you started, where you know, what state you come from, where you come from, and more or less the childhood of both of you. Whoever wants to go first, answer the question. What was childhood like? What was growing up like? Where'd you grow up? And then we'll go from there.
Yeah, if I could kick it off. So I grew up actually in Cuba. My great-grandfather was a cigar roller.
Oh, nice. And
there was at the time back in the 90s.
Did you bring any Cubans for your gift? Or?
I didn't bring any Cubans, but I do have some at home.
Yeah.
So back in the 90s, there was an agreement between the U.S. and Cuba that, you know, my family were considered political prisoners, so we didn't agree with how Cuba, kind of the rules and structures. And so my great-grandfather was able to come here to the U.S. and slowly bring our family over here. So I grew up in Cuba till about 9. I got here to the U.S. in 2006. I was about 9 years old in the 3rd grade. And, you know,
Did you fly? How'd you get here?
I flew.
Yeah.
That's how I was able to fly here. And so back then there wasn't as many like direct flights. So we flew from Cuba to Mexico, from Mexico to Miami, and then from Miami to Tampa.
Gotcha.
So it was like, I'll tell you what the coolest thing is that there's a lot of power outages in Cuba, and there isn't like you get water once a day. So you have to fill up like your tank, your well. Electricity runs out. So when I was flying on that plane and landing into Tampa at night, I was just staring out that window. I was like, oh my God.
All these lights.
These lights are amazing. But I'll tell you that every little kid in Cuba typically wishes they can come to the U.S. That's like a dream that you could come here. And like over there, you're ranked in your school. From the day you start school, you get a number based on your performance. And that determines what your job's going to be, whether you're going to be a carpenter, a lawyer, a doctor. And so like if you get siloed into these numbers and you can't really change it. And so if they tell you you're a carpenter, like you have to go. You don't go to high school. Only people who are like doing well in the system go to high school. If not, you go to a vocab school where like you're already learning to be a carpenter like at a very young age. And so coming here was an opportunity that I didn't take for granted. I learned English within a year, which was really fast. We have a program called the ESOL program, which typically it gives you a little bit more time to take exams, to just like this, and it's for anyone who comes from a different country to have a little bit more time for standardized stuff. And I was proud enough to say that I got out of that within a year, which typically takes 2 to 3 years. So grew up here in Tampa, went to Jefferson High School, really was passionate about like the ROTC program. So I got to dress up in an Air Force uniform and like march and do the color guard. And I think that's what kind of drove my passion to then later on converting and joining the Navy. And so I enlisted in the Navy in 2016 when I was 17. My mom had to sign that paper, and I'll tell you, for a mom who's from a different country and thinks that everybody who goes to the military like has to have a gun and it's going to war, that was a battle, getting her to sign that paper. If you're under 18, your parents have to sign for you.
Yeah, so funny story. I think I've told it on the podcast before. My grandpa was Army, so it was like 1950 or 51, right at the beginning of the Korean War. Very, very poor part of South Carolina. Different world than compared to now, where I mean, my great grandpa was a sharecropper.
Mm-hmm.
My great grandma didn't work. She had 12 kids.
Wow.
And she couldn't read or write. So my grandpa was 16, but there's no birth certificates, back then, or at least in this part, poor part of South Carolina. So he goes to the recruitment office, says he's 17 because he thought 16 was parent signature, and 17 you're in,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't that. So they're like, all right, go sign this. So he's like, my great grandma once again couldn't read or write, so he told her, hey, you gotta sign something for school. Here it is. All she could do was scribble her name. She couldn't read what she was signing, and she was sending her kid to Korea. And the funny part is, he was like basic training in Paris Island, and he calls me Bubba. He was like, Bubba. Next thing I know, I'm in the North Korean snow saying, shit, what have I done? A few weeks later, I don't know how long basic training was, but I guess he was pretty much in and out of basic training to get him over to Korea. And sorry to interrupt, but it was a funny story.
Yeah, it moves fast, and you got to get that signature when we're a little bit too young. So my mom was crying. She was like, why would you do this to me? You got great. I graduated a year early from high school, had great grades, but I didn't know I was going to pay for college. Mm-hmm. So I thought, hey, the military's, this is the way to go.
Yeah.
I can go serve honorably and then get my school paid for. And so I did that. I served about 8 years. During that time, I got my degree in finance. My last 2 years in the service, I got into University of Maryland's MBA school and went to grad school there. And then slowly after that, Deloitte, which is a company that I was working at, one of the big 4 accounting firms, poached me out of grad school, and so I knew that was when it was time to hang up the sailor cubby. I was like, man, it's time to go work in the big corporate world. So that was kind of a big pivot for me, going from the military to going to corporate.
How does that work? Like, how long did you have to serve?
So it's typically contracts. So your first contract is like 4 to 5 years. And then they let you re-up every 2 years. And so I actually extended that first contract. So I did 5 years, and then I did another extension for 3 years. So I ended up serving for 8 years. So just kind of perfectly timed it. It honestly was like God's timing. I don't know how it worked out, but Deloitte made me an offer a year from me getting out of the service. So it gave me plenty of time to like plan out that transition. I got out of the service in August. I started working August 19th. I started working for Deloitte September 1st.
What year was that?
That was in 2023.
Okay.
22.
You've done so much at such a young age.
Yeah, it's been
27 years old, 8 years in the Navy, and Deloitte in this.
Yeah, it's been a journey. I know we were talking about like the DNA, like what does it take to succeed or operate at a high level, and I just think you have to be relentless and always be in pursuit of some. I've never been content or satisfied. Like every time I get in, I'm a highly decorated Navy sailor. I have 8 Marine Corps Achievement medals, various humanitarian service medals. I helped natural disasters all around the world, and I always, people always ask me, they were like, man, you've got this immigrant mentality, and it's like you have a chip on your shoulders, and like you always are working towards the next thing. You're getting a degree, you're volunteering, you're going to school. Like, when does it stop? And I would always say it, it's not that I'm dissatisfied with life or not happy. I just want more, to pursue more. And so it's always this constant pursuit of, okay, checking the box. What can I do next? And I live a satisfied and fulfilled life. It's not that I feel unfulfilled, but.
So one of my best friends is a very similar story to you. He was born in Miami, but his parents were born in Cuba. And I played high school football with him. So, so respectable on what you've been able to do, just knowing his story, knowing his parents' story. I think in the world today, there's immigration is a big foreign policy and always in the news. You have a unique experience with immigration. So what's your viewpoint on current modern day immigration policies in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think
Didn't know you get into politics on the podcast.
Yeah, you know what? I love that in the military, they will always tell you this, like, we're apolitical. Yeah. We served under the commander-in-chief no matter who it is. So, being out of the service and now, like, getting a chance to, like, vote and have my own political views. And actually, in the military, you cannot post political stances online. Actually, there's a disclaimer you have to put that, you know, these are my views and not those of the DOD. And so, you know, I think immigration right now, you know, it's a really hot topic in the U.S. There's a lot of things going on. My take is that you got to be careful, like, what you see and what source you see it from. Like, at the end of the day, the media's job is to, you know, sell newspapers to get your eyes and get your attention. So you just got to be careful. One of the watch-standing principles in the Navy is have a questioning attitude. So, like, whenever I see things, I always question, like, does this make sense? Like, do my own research and formulate my own opinion, because their job is to get you spun up, either one side or the other. And so, you know, I think, you know, the U.S. was built on there's a lot of immigrants in the U.S., right? Like, immigration was a big deal and has been a big deal, and it's a huge part of the DNA of this country. And I just think we need to find a way to understand that. And, you know, from there, there's people of all backgrounds, all races. There's a lot of hard workers we're proudly there to say that 60% of our clients are Latino, especially in the Dallas market. And so a lot of them are like 7-8 figure business owners who, you know, contribute a lot to this country. And so it's disheartening sometimes to see some of the things that are being, you know, kind of said online. I think there's bad apples everywhere. Like, even when cops were in the crosshairs of the media, I'd say, like, every cop was bad. So now as a police officer, you're scared to go out and do your duties. I just think we need to be careful what we see online.
I agree. I think, like, the majority of America are like us, where it's like, we're gonna be boys, like, we're friends, like, we're fine. But then the media tries to, like, pin, you know, whether it's race, whether it's immigration, whether it's sex, whether it's you know, gender identities, whatever it is, try to pit them against each other. And, like, the majority don't care. Like, I could care less, you know. And so, but like you said, I mean, they try to make it seem like the majority is the opposite of that, you know, when in reality, you know, they're just trying to get clicks.
It's all about attention.
So from Escalade story to politics, now back to Edgar's story. Edgar, who is Edgar?
So this is a question that I kind of think about and dabble with a lot, especially with changing times, changing needs, and then just challenges that come across. A couple of months ago, back in September, I had the opportunity to meet Escalade and get to know him. And I also had the opportunity to visit Florida for the first time. From Texas, And
were you born in Dallas?
No, I was born in Mexico.
Okay.
What
city?
But Mexico City.
Okay.
But I was raised in Dallas. I arrived in Dallas when I was 5, so I've pretty much just, you know, Dallas is all I know. And I do travel in Dallas, within Dallas, to like Austin, San Antonio, and like pretty much like everywhere in Texas. But I've never visited Florida. You know, I was just kind of always like, okay, well, I know about Miami.
Well, man, it's the best state for me.
I know about Orlando, but that's all. You know, Tampa, I kind of really just caught wind of Tampa whenever the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. That's what's like, okay, oh man, well, Tampa, you know. So it was kind of Tampa Bay, yes. And so, but once I met Escalade, I had the opportunity to do that. Come out, visit Tampa, visit Florida, get to know him, get to know his family, his friends, his connections, and then just be involved in his network. And so that's something that it has really just put a lot into perspective into me. That is really about who you know and who you're friends with and who you're interacting with on the daily. I make the comment to Escalade a lot that everywhere we go, I feel like somebody knows him. And it's just crazy to me, and because in Dallas is so big that not everyone's gonna know you unless you're like a social media influencer.
Mendez sounds good.
And so it's crazy. And so that has put into perspective. Okay, like I'm raised in Texas, raised in Dallas. You know, I to this point I was a Texas boy. But now I come to Florida and he has me wearing sandals and shorts and everything. He's like, you wear sandals, you don't wear boots here. And so it's just like, okay. So then I'm just kind of like, I feel like I'm constantly shifting who I am. Does that make sense? And that's something that's going to happen because as you grow and you go and you get older and you experience different things, you meet different people and you start getting into different situations and different scenarios. And so it's just about how you make the best of it, how you overcome challenges. and really just how you thrive after it.
Yeah.
And so I keep telling Escalade that going on the religious side, that I feel that something is over him, something is over us, that somebody's watching, because we've just been very blessed with opportunities, networking, and then it's just one thing after another, you know. And so that's also a part of it. How do you handle opportunities? How do you handle new things that come your way that are going to be a benefit to you, but they're not going to be served in a silver platter. You kind of have to take the opportunity and kind of analyze how you're going to tackle that, and then get the best benefit out of it. And so that's something that meeting Escalade has really taught me a lot. And knowing him, knowing his story, and then hearing about how he spent time in the service and went through that, and his experiences just makes me feel like, man, like I really had it easy. You know, I graduated high school, went straight to college. My first year of college was crazy. I was very, very much a big procrastinator. Assignments will get done the day of when they were due, or if not the same week. And so it was just really bad. But my second year of college, I picked up the pace, got really into the system, really got acclimated. And so from there, I just finished school. One of my biggest challenges in college was that to graduate, you needed to complete an internship. And so as a Hispanic person in Dallas, and it was kind of like, okay, like I've really never been exposed to like the corporate side of things, really never been exposed to like an office setting, let alone an interview for an internship. So it was something that I had a really hard time, because how do I prepare for an interview? And just to add a little bit to it, I'm a first-time graduate in my family, and in both in Dallas and Mexico. No one in my family has ever graduated college, and so that was something that was also challenging to me, because I didn't have anybody to kind of fall back on and pretty much ask for advice on. And so it was something that I was just kind of just going with the punches, you know. And so once I got to the stage where I was going into internships, I did maybe like 10 different interviews, and not one of them ever gave me an offer. I came close to a couple offers, but nothing really panned out. And so it was a time where I was like, wow, like what am I going to do? Like I need an internship to graduate. And you know, what do I do? You know, and so finally I came across this company. It was a family office and so basically what they did was that they managed their own portfolio. It was a wealthy family. They managed their own portfolio, and so they had investments in different areas: oil and gas, ranching, aviation, and so forth. And so I distinctively remember walking in. Coming into the conference room for the interview, and there's like a picture of like the owner with George Bush, and it's like everything's like really like aesthetically like on the ranch side. And so then I was just kind of walking in, and I'm like, man, like where did I walk in? You know, being a minority, being Hispanic, you know, you kind of just get scared with those kind of things. But then I interviewed with the guy, talked to the guy. You know, the guy was really cool, really nice. And 3 weeks later, he reached out and said, "Hey, we really think you're a good person for this position. You know, we'd like to bring you on." And it was a blessing in disguise, because I was in my last year of college, and this particular position, it wasn't a traditional internship. They wanted somebody that can stick around for at least a year. Because of the sensitive information and sensitive things I was going to be working with. And so they said, we don't want somebody to just come in and out. We want somebody that can kind of hang out at least for a year. And so I said, yeah, that works for me. I'm in my last year of college. This gives me some ample time and gives me the experience that I need to kind of graduate and go and see where else I can go. And so long story short, I ended up being there 2 years. And I got to experience a lot. I got to experience ranch accounting, aviation accounting, restaurant accounting, a whole bunch of stuff. I was dealing with a lot of movements and transactions, money-wise, large numbers, everything. So it was a really great experience. And so from there, it was I ended up ultimately leaving because during my time there, we were implementing a new accounting system for them to run. And so with that system, I was putting myself out of a job. And so it was something that you don't really see a whole lot. You probably see it in corporate where you put yourself out of a job because something is getting automated or something is getting, more efficient. And so and there was basically like no position for me left. And so from there, I went on to working at a regional CPA firm in Dallas, and it's a mid-sized CPA firm. They're big in the area, and so I went in there, did an internship in audit. I figured I'd take a stab in audit and see if that's something that I liked. Ultimately, I did not like it. I felt like it was more on the boring side, and so then I moved on to tax. And so that's where I started picking up experience in tax, getting a little bit more acclimated with the ins and outs and the implications and the workflows and kind of what things look like. And so from there, I spent a little bit of time in that firm. From there, I went down to a smaller firm because a smaller firm will give me the ability to do everything in every step, from talking to the client, bringing the client on, getting documents, onboarding, and just getting to where we deliver to the client. And so that's something that I really learned from going from a mid-sized firm to a small firm, a smaller firm, because I was pretty much hands-on on everything. I spent a few years there, learned everything I could, and then it got to a point to where I was just kind of like, okay, like I know this. I graduated school. I got the license, got licensed, everything. I'm ready to go. I saw a need in the Hispanic market, like Escalade mentioned. As of right now, about 60% of our clients are Hispanic, but it came a time where 100% of our clients were Hispanic, mm-hmm. And so that's a need that I saw, that there was a lot of Hispanic-owned businesses where there was 6-7 figures in revenue, and there was a lot of there was an opportunity there. There was a market for it. So then ultimately, I said, you know what, like I think I have what it takes to start a firm, to start kind of go head first and just see where it goes. And so I started the firm in 2022, and at first it was a little bit scary because how do I go about finding clients? How do I go about meeting people? How do I go about just bringing business on? And then you go from a constant paycheck to not knowing when you're going to get paid. And so it was a nerve-wracking situation, but I started kind of getting in the process. And the biggest thing that hit me at the beginning was that anybody can be an accountant, anybody can be a tax preparer, anybody can pretty much just get you in and out the door. And so that's when I kind of realized that it'll be a better idea, and I'd be more successful if I build relationships with clients and be more available, more personable. And even from time to time, I would always get comments that when people would ask, what do I do for work? And I'd say, oh, I'm an accountant, I'm in tax. People would be shocked because they would say, well, accountants are not very, very extroverted. They're very introverted. They're very quiet. They're very to themselves, and you're like kind of like the life of the party, And so it's something that I've used a lot. It's my biggest trait. If I come into a party, if I come into a network event, I come in there and I go with the intention of talking to somebody, meeting somebody new, and then just starting a conversation with mm-hmm. somebody. And so that's been one of my biggest traits. And early on, I figured that out, that I can use that to my advantage, and from there it just got me to where I went on for 4 years in the business. The firm was doing well. Like I tell Escalade, every year I was doubling revenue, and it just got to a point where I was thinking, well, I'm in this alone. I can pretty much just handle what I have, and I started envisioning maybe bringing on a partner, and just kind of saying, okay, like if I bring a partner, I can run ideas with this individual, tag team on things, work things together.
And you chose Escalade?
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny how we met. It was literally on Instagram.
On Instagram, we met on Instagram, and he was flying into Dallas within 2 weeks, and so I said, sweet, let's go get dinner, let's talk, let's hang out, and meeting Escalade and seeing his the way he carries himself, his persona, and just how he kind of reflects his hunger and his inspirations on you is what really kind of made me decide, okay, like Escalade's like a really smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he wants. He's a go-getter, and so that's like I was just like I need somebody like that, and given that he was already setting up a presence in Florida and Tampa, it was just kind of like, oh man, like what, like I can work out of Dallas and set up and start expanding into Tampa through Escalade, and so from there we just started working on a couple projects, and we realized that we made a good team, that we were able to get things done easier, efficiently, because he had better ideas to my workflows, to my current workflows, and so it was just like, okay, let's go ahead and set something up. We started branding ourselves, and then from there we came up with the slogan, "Not Your Average Accountant," and it's just something that just been kicked off, and everywhere we go, people know Escalade. People have slowly started to get to know me a little bit, but that's all been through Escalade, and so I've been very fortunate to have met Escalade, and it's something that growing up in Dallas and in a predominantly Hispanic area of Dallas is something that I never saw myself in now, where I'm at now. And so it's just crazy to think about. I had somebody ask me one time a couple weeks ago. They said, what would you tell 18-year-old Edgar? Like yourself now, what would you tell 18-year-old Edgar? And so I was just kind of like thinking, it was just kind of like a question that like I was like I didn't have an answer for. But it was a really great question, because 18-year-old Edgar was not very ambitious, was not very he didn't have many inspirations. He wasn't very strong when it came to challenges and how to get through obstacles. And so looking back at it, I think back and I sit down and I'm like, man, how did I go through that? How did I manage to go through school, finish school, and go through the obstacles that I had to get through to build the experience and build the technical side of things, and get to where I am now in Florida with you here on the pod and everything. So it's a lot of things that just kind of play in my mind as far as who is Edgar.
What's up, you guys? I wanted to introduce to you our done-for-you Airbnb investing service called BNB Turnkey that has massive tax implications. It's basically an investing service that allows you to invest in cash-flowing Airbnbs and not do any of the work. It's best explained in 3 phases. Number 1, we find, analyze, and underwrite the property. In phase 2, we handle all the interior design and construction. And then phase 3, we manage the property on the back end. The best part is most of our clients qualify for the short terminal loophole of the IRS tax code. This allows for average clients to write off over $200,000 in depreciation on their tax bill. For more information, click the link in the description to connect with our team. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the episode. One of the things you mentioned, I was talking to my wife about this like 2 days ago. Probably 99.9% of people aren't willing to take the risk into entrepreneurship. It's too scary. It's too big of a cliff. It's too big of a deep end. It would have been very easy for you guys, with your experience, with your knowledge and your expertise, to go work for a tax or accounting firm and make your 6 figures and call it a day, right?
Yeah.
And once again, 99.9% of accountants do that. And financial advisors, whatever it may be, do that. And we'll go to Escalade first. Escalade, what was like in the Edgar after that? like the deciding factor that you're like, you know what, I'm tired of Deloitte, or I'm tired of whatever it is, like I'm going all in?
Yeah, I think for me, it was coming from like, even though the military is like complex and large, it always felt like small and like you're part of a team.
Mm-hmm.
And so go into like a Deloitte, you're team based, but you're really like solopreneurs. Like you're working on everybody, even within a project, has like 10 different roles, and you might just be working on the one thing. And so I just felt like I had a void in me. Like I was missing something. Like I wasn't truly happy there. I was like, this is a great company, great name. Like I could use this name forever to get me into the door into any place, which is great. But I just felt like I wanted at the core of it, I was missing that like people aspect. I wanted to help people. So I was working on a 20, 30, $40 million FBI implementation where like the FBI has an extra 30 million. Like how do they deploy that capital? They're going to hire more agents, so they're going to open up an office. Like it was very high level.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to work with people, and we do a lot of pretty PowerPoints. We don't own anything. Like we don't implement any of the work. We just give a lot of advice. I was a consultant, like true consultant. My biggest project was like a $100 billion one. And yeah, you make a look pretty deck. You give some like really cool, recommendations on what they should do. And then Meta will take that and say, hey, cool. And then you don't own any of it, right? So like all your work. So for me, I think I just wanted to be part of something that was like actionable. Like in the military, if I was on a team, and I like in the Navy particularly, we don't have firefighters. So we're all firefighters in the Navy. So if we're in the middle of the ocean and a fire goes out, you're assigned to like a repair locker, and you might be like a repair locker leader, or you might be an assistant. And so like you have a duty, whether that's like to get the hose ready or make sure the oxygen tanks are good to go. And so I wanted like a little bit more direct action to like have an impact. And so accounting, especially accounting for small businesses, felt like that. I started like doing bookkeeping, and I was like, man, like this really is making a huge impact for people, making sure their books look right. People miscategorize things all the time that will throw their numbers off in significant ways. Number one thing I see is like, if you're an owner of a company, like what you pay yourself is not an expense of the business, not at the LLC level.
Yeah.
And so I'll see people go from like 100K net thinking they have negative 8,000 net. I'm like, it's really bad. You'll report the wrong numbers and you'll get penalized. And so it just, in that relationship aspect that Edgar was talking about, like talking with people. And I'll tell you this, I never thought I'd go back into entrepreneurship. When I was 16, 17, I started a clothing company, like designed everything. My cousin, shout out to Yasiel Puig, who played for the LA Dodgers. I was starting that company with him, and like,
wait, what did you just say?
My cousin used to play for the LA Dodgers.
Yasiel Puig, your cousin?
Yeah.
Sick. Dude.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a great guy. Yeah. We were just talking a couple days ago.
He had a huge contract.
He did.
What was
42 million with the Dodgers,
yeah.
And then he left and played. He just played for Japan. You
tried to like slide past that. Oh, yeah. Puig's my cousin. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I started the clothing company, and it was because I actually was his translator for some time in LA. When he played, like he had no. When I graduated that year early, I left to LA and I translated for him. I got to travel with the team. Like I got to hang out with Kershaw, Greinke, like all the guys, all the OG guys in Dodgers were like.
Y'all didn't do any betting, did you?
No, we didn't do any betting.
That's not you, right?
But I started a clothing company, and like I did feel like it didn't take off, and I felt like it failed. And I was like, man, this is the reason why I'm gonna stick to like going to school and getting a degree. And so stick that very traditional path. And then like when this opportunity came and I started working with people again, and like, man, no one can teach you in school like when a client won't pay an invoice, or like you don't close that deal that you thought you were going to close. Like you learn that like in grad school, it's like a think at a high level, like how did Starbucks do this? You're just like looking at case studies and trying to mimic what went right and what went wrong. And like entrepreneurship really teaches you like some shitty shit, like how to deal with it's not always highs. It's like highs and lows, but I think the relationships for us outweigh pretty much the lows.
Yeah.
And we're at a point where we kind of can pick and choose who we want to work with. But those beginning stages when you're just trying to take anything on, that's brutal. I don't think a lot of people talk about that. Like when you're trying to take clients on, you just take anyone. You're just trying to get some revenue going, right? So you can spend money on like systems in place.
Yeah, you're just trying.
You're just trying, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we first started our like our property management companies, how we started. Like now we only bring on homes that'll do over 100K in bookings. Like then it's like, hey, like you got a front door? All right, we got you. You know?
Yeah.
Edgar, let's go into, you being an EA. I think it's very important for people. Like a lot of people don't understand the difference between an EA and a CPA. How would you explain the difference between an EA and a CPA?
Yeah, definitely. So an EA is essentially a IRS license that is offered through the IRS, and there's examinations involved. They cover individual taxation, business taxation, and IRS representation, and that's just for audits and correspondence or examinations and so forth. The difference between the EA and the CPA, I would describe it as an EA is specialized in tax, and specialized in the technical aspect of things, especially when it comes to a filing, when it comes to a miscellaneous or extraordinary thing, when it maybe the taxpayer has some sort of overseas activity or some overseas income, or there's anything that kind of just happened throughout the year, and it's like, okay, how do we go about this, or even if there's some tax strategy involved. One of the things that I always consider is that you can be aggressive with tax strategy, you can be aggressive with your tax planning, and the IRS has the code for it, but the IRS they interpret the tax code, and so they put their publications there. That's what's referred to IRS publications. So essentially, they take the tax code written by Congress and so forth, and basically they interpret that, and they publish the publications. And so somebody like an average Joe or even like a CPA can go through and like read the publication, but as an EA, you have the ability to kind of understand further and be more analytical about it. So when you put together an aggressive strategy, you can disclose that with the tax return. You can disclose that and say, hey, okay, we're making this position, we're taking this position, we're being this aggressive because there's this tax court case where there was a ruling that the taxpayer was able to do what we're wanting to do because there's already been a ruling over it. And so it's something that, as an EA, we have the expertise, we have the ability when we have the technical side of things to really understand those kinds of procedures, those kinds of processes, and also too just when it comes to being involved in an audit. If we're working with a client or a client comes in and they say, hey, the IRS has been sending me letters, the IRS has been contacting me, they're saying that they're going to levy, they're going to seize, like what do I do? As an EA, we have the expertise to call the IRS, go visit with the IRS, talk to them. We know how to pretty much communicate with the IRS and how to talk to them, the agents. We know the ins and outs. We know the procedures. So the IRS has different procedures to where if they send you a letter, you have 30 days to respond. But if you for some reason you live overseas and you never got the letter, then you get some leeway. And so it's just there's just a lot of different things that you have to consider when it comes to the audit process and getting levied or seized. And if the IRS violates those constraints, then we have a leg to stand on and say, hey, you didn't follow the proper procedure to come after my client. So essentially, we pretty much act as more of an attorney base when it comes to audit representation and dealing with audits because of the technicalities that are involved in those procedures. And so even for example, right now I am currently working with a client that has an issue with the IRS, and I'm going to be going to San Antonio next week to go visit an agent. And during my initial conversation with the guy, I told him, like, hey, you send out the letter and then you scheduled the in-person meeting for 2 weeks after the letter date. But you should have scheduled the meeting 30 days after the letter date. So, we're requesting that we get more time to get everything together because you didn't give us 30 days. And so that's something that an EA would know to do, will have expertise on. Mm-hmm. As opposed to a CPA, because A CPA will pretty much just take your financials, prepare your financials, take your numbers, prepare the return, and get you a balance due. And so if there was an audit or there was anything involved, they don't have that capacity, they don't have that expertise to handle that. So they typically outsource it to an EA. So it's something that a CPA is more general in terms of finance, accounting, and financial statement preparation. But an EA it has more expertise on the tax side. And so I would say that's the biggest difference between an EA and a CPA.
I want to keep nerding out. Like our whole business started in 2020, give or take. Not give or take, 2020. I was just getting taxed to death. I was at a high income sales job, making about $500K a year, give or take. And I started looking into ways to not pay the IRS, 6 figures. And now I have the holy grail rep status. At the time I didn't, which is real estate professional status. I'm not telling you guys, telling the listeners. 750 hours, plus over half of everything I do being real estate. Then there's a lot of things that we can get into and talk about with that. But 2020, I didn't have that. So then it's like, in my opinion, next best option is the short-term rental loophole. Got to meet a lot of criteria. The main ones being the average stay has to be less than 7 days, and you have to have 100 hours into it. And then nobody can be more than you. So someone can be, if you're 100, someone can be 99, but no individual can be more than you at you're 100. So then leads into my question, like, what's some of your favorite tax strategies that, maybe someone's never heard of, or the average person's never heard of?
Yes. So there's definitely a lot of strategies. One of the particular one I like the most is with high-income earners. What I tell people is that, would you rather pay the IRS your money, or would you rather contribute that or put that aside for retirement? And so retirement is something that me, Escalade, and everyone has to kind of think about and prepare for. And so that's kind of my hook as a tax strategy, is that if you're a high income earner, you're generating significant income, and you're getting hit with these things. So you can establish what's called a cash balance plan. And so with that plan, you can pair that with a 401k. It gives you the ability to contribute into the 401k, and then from there you contribute into the cash balance plan high, and all those contributions offset your income, because you're essentially postponing your income. You're contributing it into those accounts, and so that income, you're not getting hit with that income. And so that's something that, as a high income earner, your numbers are significantly high, because it goes based on what your income is. And so if your income is really high, then you have really high max contributions.
Yeah.
And so it's something that not a lot of people know about, and that's something that we work with clients on. And when we look at what their income is, what their needs are, if especially if they're married, they have no kids, no wife, they have nothing going on, or they're planning to get married, like, how is that going to affect them? How can they contribute for themselves? How can they contribute for their spouse? And so that's something has been our favorite thing to implement and talk to people about, and especially on the high income earner side. It's a really good strategy, I think.
Anything to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say one thing that we look at too. The first thing we probably look at is entity structure. Like, does it make sense to be an LLC? We typically recommend at like a 50K net, for a business to like convert over to the S corp. You're gonna peel off the self-employment tax, 15.3%. It's gonna make a huge difference. You could be at the 22% tax bracket, and all of a sudden you're at 37%. And so entity structure is kind of one of those things we look at. Bringing in some 401ks, layering, solo set 401ks, getting the cash balance plans. People do the short-term rental loopholes, right? It just depends. A lot of it depends on like the client. What do they want to do with their life? Like, what are their goals? And so kind of pairing all those together really make a big difference. They really do. A common one that's really popular as well is payrolling the kids. That's something that quite a few of our clients do. they can do ordinary necessary tasks, like office stuff. The rule of thumb is typically the 7-year-olds. My son just turned 7, so we're gonna payroll him soon.
Yeah.
But you can
And
payroll
put him
him
on Instagram. Do some marketing.
Yeah, the standard deduction. So it's $14,500. So you payroll him the standard deduction, and now that's great for the business. That's great for the kid. You can put into college.
So those listening, you can't just pay your kids. They have to actually do something for the job. So like Escalade, it's perfect. It's easy for you. He could come on talking about paying your kids. That's what you do, and then that's marketing expense, and then you can pay your kids to do that.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And then I can have him when I print out papers, put them in folders, just do some general administrative tasks, and then you payroll them through wages.
Yep. So one thing, I'll die on the hill that when you put all the tax strategies together and you put them on a spreadsheet and you look at them side by side, the cash flow, the appreciation, and then obviously the depreciation. When the appreciation both natural and forced, then the depreciation, now that 100% bonus is back to the big beautiful bill, nothing beats the short-term rental loophole. I have been brought, I want to get into you with your experience in aviation and oil and gas. I'm a part of a fractional family office, so they get brought, all kind of deals and all kind of strategies, and they then bring to us, and we weigh them side by side. So I've been brought oil and gas deals, I've been brought, aviation deals. In my opinion, still didn't beat the side by side comparison of short-term rentals. But what are the oil and gas depreciation, tax incentives, as well as with airplanes?
Yeah, so oil and gas itself it's a different treatment. Because you start getting into depletion, you start getting into
equipment,
you start getting into everything involved with that.
I've been watching Landman.
Yeah,
on
I have
Hulu,
too.
So I'm all in.
You're all in,
yeah.
Right I got through the season, through the final season.
Yeah, same.
But
I'm ready to move to Fort Worth and start my oil and gas company.
Yeah. And so oil and gas is very, very particular especially when it comes to accounting, and you start going into tax, and so because even with on the financial side of things, financial statements for oil and gas, you start getting into what is the production worth, and you have to be conservative with those numbers, and then you have to go into liabilities and leases and so forth, and so. The IRS has a different treatment for oil and gas, particularly because as I mentioned, there's depletion involved, and there's depreciation on the equipment, and it could be a good way to diversify and kind of offset some of your expenses in oil and gas, because oil and gas they don't have anything to where you have to get to a real estate status, like as you mentioned. So if oil and gas you're either passive or you're actively involved. You can be actively involved at any level. You don't have to get to the hourly threshold that the IRS is requiring for a real estate status, and so. Oil and gas could be a good opportunity to kind of get into to diversify. And
I heard a new one the other day. It was I forget what they called it, but it was in basically you acquire, it was in Georgia, and you buy an extraordinary amount of land, and that has high water tables, and then you drill for the wells at those water tables, and then you basically essentially donate it to the city, to the county, to the state, wherever. And you're able to kind of essentially depreciate and write off all of it. And so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And that goes into contributions, whether it be charitable contributions, donating to the church, or even if you're donating to a charity or a nonprofit organization, and even donating it to the county or your city, it also qualifies as that because. You start getting into where you can potentially offset 80% of your income versus considering what you donate. And so if you donate something significantly, then you can offset like a good chunk of your income doing so.
Well, let's get into the final questions. I like what you said at the very beginning, what separates yourselves from the average accountant. the majority of people I talk to, I've never heard anybody that says, "Oh, I love my accountant. I love my CPA." No one ever says that. For the exact reason you said, communication. Like, hey, just it's so funny. Like, you can have a successful business most of the time if you just text people back or email them back, right? And so it sounds crazy, but that's the truth. The fact of the matter is that, especially if it's, I think the CPA, accounting, tax advisory industry is the older generation, a lot of older people. So you guys coming in young and new, the ability to just text people back, as crazy it may seem, once again, is on the forefront of success for businesses. And so adding into that, what is the future for your guys' business? How do you keep improving? Where do you go from today to the future?
I think the future relies like on communication, and so like the systems that you have in place for that. We'll give them a shout out. We've got a great accounting software called Canopy that is absolutely amazing. From client communication to the way you set an engagement, to the way you can bill the time that you're working on, and it also, there's an app on the on the App Store, Google Play, where you can download it. And like one common thing that happens to us day in and day out throughout the year, like a client's like, I need a copy of my W-2, and I think to myself, like, technically that is your W-2, so we'll have to send them a link to like a portal. And now, like, you've got this app, you can just pop it up and say, okay, this is my last year's taxes look like. And so we love Canopy.
I'm the worst at that. I'm always asking for like K1 for this, K1 for that. It's like the third time you said, okay, I promise I'm downloading it this time. 1099 for this, W-2 for that. But it gets complicated. At scale. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. And the thing about this, like I talk about implementing new systems, the systems that we're using as well. If you had to scan like a piece of like a document, like you could just use your camera and it scans it straight into like our files, and we get notified immediately. Like, so and so put in a file. And so I think it's about, there's a lot, AI is coming into play into the accounting system a lot, whether that's helping, and it also kind of helps scrub our emails and look at potential replies and like, hey, you haven't said anything back to this person in a day. And so I just think about us having the right systems in place to not only continue to bring people on, but sustain the clients that you have at a high level. We always talk about that. Like, the one thing we don't want to lose as we grow is the personal touch.
I like what you said about, like, and not necessarily in the CPA and tax world, but just like our internal accounting team. Some of the things that, like, our CFO is extraordinary, and like he was just showing me before y'all came in. Now listen, it's a little over my head of like some of the things he's doing using Zapier to create automations through our software. We use Sage Intacct for our software system, and then we use another software system on the management side that basically essentially takes us almost like a, hey, there's an issue here that maintenance called out, so it's all billed through there. So he automated it where it goes from there to Zapier into Sage kind of automatically. We're used to be a manual process with our VAs of going through the management platform and then manually coding in the expenses to charge the owners. So now it's more automated. I think it's going to be even like we're just at the beginning of that. And I think now I don't think it's going to really impact. It's not going to impact our current team of like you said, like not get replaced by AI. But I think it will definitely decrease future, employment expenses of being able to, use technology and use AI to complete tasks.
I think that, we're in a world and age where like data is very accessible and information and knowledge. And so at what speed can you take all that or regurgitate it back and like make something actionable? And I think that's where the future of us is going, like leveraging all these. We have our friend in San Antonio loves Zapier. Like he creates all these crazy automations. Where like he has you fill an organizer and then it creates a form, and that form, like in another system in Canopy, he used Canopy 2, already creates the client portal for the client. It gets insane. He's obsessed with like how can he be more efficient. And I always tell him, what about the time spent being efficient? Like I poke with him a little bit. But I think where we're headed is, so we've got a big pivot that we're getting ready to make, where bookkeeping, payroll, those things are all things that are compliance things and you have to do, and that we will continue to do. But the industry and the future of accounting is going to tax strategists and tax advisors. And that's where we're pivoting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how can we like speed some of the other compliance things so that we can take because the core of everything starts with your books. If your books are good, if your financials looks good, then we can make an accurate tax assessment, and then we can advise you, okay, this is what last year's liability looks like. This is how you're doing month over month, quarter over quarter. What can we implement? What plans? What can we max out? You know, something I didn't get a chance to mention earlier, like the Trump accounts just came out. That is huge.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely huge. And Chase and Bank of America have now decided that they're going to match that. And so the way the Trump accounts are working, for those who don't know, and we didn't know too much, we've been educating ourselves, is that when you file the return this year, you have to attach that form to the return and send it to the IRS. And they'll send you a letter in the mail. You'll take that letter to the bank, and they'll open, and the money will be deposited automatically. If you fail to put that form in there, we cannot go back in and amend the return to get your child the account. So if your child's under the age of 18, we cannot.
Oh, wow.
No,
So this is like, you know, we're noticing that because we're filing returns right now, and we're seeing the form. We're putting in the form in there and saying, yes, please open up a Trump account for this child. And
What's
that is
the
huge.
income cap on that?
It's,
you know?
there's no income cap.
No,
Okay.
they're just doing it's $1,000, and then
Yeah.
a Chase and Bank of America are matching another $1,000. So now you got $2,000 in IRA for a child, and you can put in up to $5,000 a year into that specific account.
Free $2,000.
Free tutoring,
Yeah.
right? But you know, if you're filling the return and you're not doing the form, you just missed out on it.
I don't care who you are. $2,000 is $2,000.
Yeah.
That makes a big
yeah.
difference,
Yeah.
and the compounding into that and stuff like that. And so that's why, like I was saying, we're really pivoting into tax advisors and tax
Yeah.
strategists to make sure we can all agree on one thing, that everyone wants to pay a little bit less taxes, especially if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're a high income earner. With whatever strategy, you know, your advisor recommends, like the goal is wealth preservation. Like it's not about how much you can make, it's about how much you can keep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're seeing the pivot. The industry is changing completely. There's ways to automate how things get done so that you can take the information and come up with an effective tax plan that can save people tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. So we've seen it. We'll amend a return. Somebody gets back $60,000, $100,000
Yeah.
on an amendment for a year. We had a couple, we were talking about this at dinner last night. We had a couple who 7 years ago, the depreciation for the land or the farm, like it was just done incorrectly. We amended 7 years worth of returns.
I thought you could only amend up to 3 years.
We were able to get them with
Yeah.
You get like approved or whatever, a request.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's end with this question, and then we can do both of you. You kind of already mentioned Escalade. You can come up with one more, I'm sure. With the podcast being non-successful DNA, Edgar, we could start with you. Like, just from people you know, people you've been around, or either your personal experience, what's one thing that someone has to have inside of them to be successful?
Yeah, definitely. I've met quite a few individuals. They have been really successful. They know what they're doing. But the biggest thing that I've noticed that's been a trend is that you have to be assertive. You have to be a go-getter, and and just get in the position where you like doing what you're doing. Because a lot of the clients that we have, they're either in a trade or they're either in real estate, and all they do is talk about what they do. And so I think that's a common trait that I've noticed among everybody that I've encountered that is successful, that they really like what they do. They spend their time, their day improving, thinking, and they, like Escalade says, they eat and breathe what they do. And so that's something that I think you need to have in your DNA. And because obviously if you start a company and you don't like it, or you're not really looking to shoot long term, then you're not going to be successful. And so I would think that would be my biggest take on that being in your DNA.
Yeah, I was thinking about some of the things that I think are really important and what I see in people, and like obsession is. I just kept thinking about that as you were saying it.
Yeah.
You have to be like we talk about accounting all the time. Like my girlfriend says, my eyes light up. Or like she's like, you're on a phone call with the client. We love educating people. That's like the biggest thing for us. I think this probably maybe number one next to obsess or second is like we need to get out of like the planning phase and execute. Like I went through a phase where I would watch so many YouTube videos or like study on like how am I going to do this or how we're going to get there. And I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs or people who want to be entrepreneurs get stuck in the planning phase so much. And you just got to execute and not have a perfect plan in place, but understand that like have a plan where like, you know, you can make adjustments as you go. I just think we got to get out of that planning phase and more execution. And I see the people that I've met and have in my network, which I'm really proud of the network I've built, is they are relentless executors. They execute, and then within that, you know, the knowledge and information that comes, and they just adjust and correct. And okay, this didn't work, let's move. But we like the planning phase, it's easy to get stuck in that.
I did a video on the same thing the other day where it's like there's a group I'm a part of called YPO, and it's been great because there's just, I mean, it is just like some, especially in Tampa, it's YPO Tampa, there are some extraordinary individuals, you know, 8, 9, 10-figure individuals. And I said the exact same thing, like just being around them, like what makes them different is obsession. Like, and even like I think too, people try and like I think everybody agrees for a startup and to like when you're just starting and there's nothing, you have to be obsessed. What I noticed about them is like they're still obsessed. Like they still have this like, you know, one of them just sold to they sold all their how do I say it without like making it who it is, all their assets essentially. They sold their business, they sold everything, and now they have their own family office. And like you would think it's kind of the whole mantra and saying that what I've realized is the most successful and busy people in the world are the best at communicating. Like sure, we're friends and they'll communicate with me because of that, but like, you know, even I try to like I fall into the trap sometimes. It might take a day to respond to a friend or respond to a, you know, not necessarily a friend, but just someone that I'm, you know, that we have the same interests and we're building businesses, right? I mean, these guys will text you back so quick and so fast, which is like very interesting. You would think like they're more busy than anybody, right? And so they text you back so fast. But I think they're just still obsessed with like, that, you know, turn that into like, okay, why do they respond back so quick? Well, they're obsessed with learning from me as well. And learning what I'm doing and learning how I've been successful. And so like, I think, you know, being obsessed with, you know, keep getting better and keep getting better and keep getting better. Because tough times will come and, you know, it's the whole mantra of good. We're like, oh, we got this coming, this happened, good. Now we can learn. You know, we had this setback, good. You know, now we can learn. You know, we had this amazing thing happen, good. We can celebrate for a night, but then other than that, we're getting back to work tomorrow, right? So no, I agree with you. Obsession's key. And I don't really necessarily believe in balance. I think it's almost, it's like the unicorn. It doesn't exist.
I've heard of like work-life alignment a lot. Yeah. Instead of like balance, like how can you align certain things?
Yeah. When my kids go to sleep, I'm back to work. You know, and so my poor wife, she wears a lot of the hats. But another story for another day.
That's your better half right there.
Well, cool guys. Well, thank you for listening to their episode of Successful DNA. Edgar, where can they find more about you? And then Escalade, where can they find more about you? And then the company in general.
Yeah, I mean, we're on Instagram as Not Your Average Accountants. Our website as well. You can learn a little more about us. What I love about us is like 95% of our business is pretty much online. We have an office in Ybor where people can meet with us. We have a beautiful office in Dallas. Edgar has a putting green. He loves the office. He loves his office. Yeah. So you can really find us.
Can't putt,
yeah.
I'm pretty good.
He's good. I can't play. You can find us online. You can DM us. Our phones are on our Instagram. The one thing we brag about a lot is we're super accessible.
Yeah.
We have a lot of group chats with our clients. Text.
Cool.
Yeah.
And we have hundreds of clients.
You can find us too on TikTok. We have pretty good presence on TikTok, and I have a personal TikTok too now. I named it Mr. NCG Tax. So you can find me on there and kind of see a little bit of my videos where I'm like either golfing or just doing crazy stuff. And I try to merge it between like a personal life and a tax thing. So
Yeah.
I'm still trying to catch what vibe I'm gonna go with that. But you can find us online.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for coming, guys.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.